Okay, welcome back. Just a couple more passages here from this New York Times piece, because it gets even better. There are a variety of reasons that the ChiCom government is seeking an enlarged role in the economy, including fears that wealthy entrepreneurs could begin to challenge the Communist Party. Something, of course, our political elites never worry about. There's also an ingrained belief among leaders that the state is better at driving growth and redistributing wealth. Well, our dear leader, Barack Obama, just gave a speech at Osawatomie, Kansas, expressing this very belief. You know, folks, I know a lot of you. Come on, Rush, it's the New York Times. What are you wasting some time? I'm not wasting time. I think, folks, this is the kind of stuff that is as instructive as it can possibly be. Here we have evidence that a major media organ in this country will support private sector economics. Just not in this country. We know from that they get it, that they understand. They're worried about government encroachment. In China, there's hardly... The government runs everything in China. What they ought to be worried, if the New York Times is consistent, they ought to be worried about the rising middle class, the rising entrepreneur class, if they're to be consistent. You watch, just like a week ago, when that piece appeared in the New York Times op-ed section, that the Obama campaign didn't care any longer about the votes of white working class people. It's a little hidden piece. It didn't get beyond the op-ed page except for here. Well, just like Fast and Furious started, I told you what that was all about. Just like before Obama was immaculated, I told you what was ahead. This is the kind of thing that we're going to look back on at some day in the future. And I'll say, you remember when the New York Times did that piece on China? I don't know how it's going to manifest itself. I don't know what the relevance in the future is going to be, but it's evidence. Further evidence that we don't really need because we know it's already happening the way it happens, but it's further evidence that we got a rigged media in this country. We have a rigged president in this country. And when the private sector, individuals yearning to be free are on the short end of the stick, nobody here in our media stands up for them. They will stand up for people victimized by big government in China, of all places. The New York Times never stood up for the people getting crammed by government in Russia, the Soviet Union, in the Koreas, in Cuba. But now all of a sudden the New York Times is concerned about big government in China. We even have a quote from a Yale professor talking about the dangers to economic growth if the government starts getting too big and redistributing wealth and trying to run companies. I got Jamie Dimon. You know, I wonder, I do. I think a lot of people suffer from a misconception. The misconception is, and Steve Jobs, interestingly enough, back in 1997, addressed this. Like, let me paraphrase Jobs to make the point. Steve Jobs said, as best I can recall this, he said, you look out the window and you see everything out there going on that you call life. When you figure out that all that stuff out there that you see was put together by people no smarter than you are, then your life has changed. And what he meant by that was, everybody assumes that people who earn more money than they do, or build things that they don't, or whatever, are smarter, better, wiser, what have you. Jobs' point was, you're just as smart as anybody else. You just may not use your intelligence the way other people have. But the thing he was cautioning against was, don't let inferiority take over. Now, how many of you assume that people on Wall Street, the CEOs, the Grand Titans, are smarter than everybody else? Because they have more money than anybody else has. And they're able to game the financial system so that they end up always having more money than anybody else has. So they must be smarter than you are. Well, let's redefine smart. Jamie Dimon, who runs J.P. Morgan Chase, made a statement yesterday. He can't understand why Obama's out ripping the rich. He says he doesn't understand what's wrong with being successful. He doesn't understand why Obama is criticizing, ripping, and trying to tear down to size successful rich people. And I'm sure he doesn't. I'm sure Jamie Dimon's probably seen to it that Obama's received millions of dollars in campaign contributions. And I'll wager that Jamie Dimon doesn't understand conservatism versus liberalism. I don't think he even cares. Here's a guy who looks at what Obama's doing and why is he ripping? I mean, we're giving the guy money. He's coming after us. He's making all these. What Obama apparently hasn't done is taken Jamie Dimon and say, look, now I appreciate the money and I appreciate the contribution. You know, we're on the same team, but I got it in public. I got to rip you to shreds. Don't believe it. It's just, I got to do this for the public. Public hates you. I got to make the public think I hate you. It's the way I'm going to get reelected. Apparently he hadn't had that conversation with Dimon. Or if he did, Dimon forgot it. But apparently Dimon's not bright enough to figure it out on his own. Now, to me, somebody running J.P. Morgan Chase thought to be the smartest guy. Remember, Corzine ran Goldman Sachs, too, just to help you put this in perspective. Another blithering idiot who ended up getting fired from the joint. It's a guy running J.P. Morgan Chase. I don't understand why the president's attacking the rich. You don't? You can't see who the guy is? Or are you just scamming us with this statement that you don't know why he's attacking the rich? You don't see what there is to gain by attacking the rich. So these people aren't any smarter than you are. They're not more perceptive than you are. In fact, in many cases, they're less so.